So, Data Science from Scratch by Joel Grus is one of those books that I had picked up quite early on in my data science journey. I had picked this book up when I signed up for the Masters in Data Science program. And of course, I've gone through multiple other books, but this is one of those books, if you want to say you need a cohesive reference book, a book that gives you an overview of almost all of the topics that you require in data science, this is the book. But this is also the book that is not going to go into depth into any one of those topics. However, with that being said, this is a book that is going to be more than enough if, let's say, you're an undergrad or you're just starting out with data science. For the first couple of years, you might not even need a lot more. But if you want to pick things up very fast, if you want to go into depth very fast, this book is going to some extent help you at least get a good overview so you can start going into depth into each of the topics that you really like. Now, if you've got some programming depth, I think like for example, if you're coming with a software engineering background or a coding background, and you're getting into data science, this book is 100% going to help you out in that sense. Now, if, as I said, 100% depth or a lot of depth on each of the topics, not really. But yeah, with that being said, let's just quickly have a look at the book. You start with Python, basics of Python that you'd need. Not a lot of time is spent on each articles, of course, or each topic rather. I'll just show you quickly whatever you get your data visualization, your gradient descent, your hypothesis testing, which is kind of your maths part of data science. And then you start with kind of getting and working with data, machine learning, KNN, Hive base. Now, one interesting thing was that KNN is taught before regression, which was quite interesting to me, because regression tends to be easier and more intuitive than KNN for a lot of people, especially considering kind of KNN is in a different dimension. So quite interesting overall. But then right from neural networks to kind of clustering, NLP, network analysis, data ethics, everything. So you do get a very comprehensive view of data science, machine learning, kind of the whole field. And for each of the topic, there are a few pages spent, like 10 to 15 pages, a little bit more, for example, for a lot of pages, or rather a couple of topics are spent here. Now, when I had initially started kind of getting into data science, and I wanted to kind of be in a little bit of advance with my lectures that would have started in a couple of months, I had started to go through this book, and I was skimming. And for now, this book has become more of a reference book, kind of, let's say if I've forgotten a topic, let's say if I want to quickly pick something up, this stays on my table and I can kind of pick it up. Now, one question is, of course, that comes to my mind is, this book, it's been a few years since this book has been out. Is it going to be worth it? Is the code outdated, etc.? And the answer is yes, the code is going to be outdated to some extent, but the math stays the same. The math behind machine learning stays the same, the math behind data science stays the same. So not a lot of changes in the conceptual sense. And of course, minor syntax variations that come from version to version. Anyways, you need to be updated with those when you get into a field, or when you get into tech, so it's fine. But for now, uh, a quick skim of a topic, or maybe if one of my lectures at college is discussing a specific topic and I don't want to go through like the chat GPT route, I want to quickly skim a book, just because of the way the writer talks in this book. I like it, and I immediately get the examples that are verified. With a lot of things, if I'm using like chat GPT, I can't even verify what it's telling me is right or not. So if I want verified information, if I want correct information, if I want a very quick example, I can just have a look at topics or graphs like this, for example. It has at this point become a reference book for me. And of course, if this book would had like 300 more pages, I think this that would have been very good depth overall. But as of now, very good reference book overall. And especially if you're a self learner, if you aren't involved in a a degree program or something, if you're learning data science on your own, I think this book is even more worth it for someone like you then in that case. Now, uh, what else is here? Let's also look at that. Now, what does this book not cover? One, uh, of course, obvious is not a lot of depth. But then if you look at, for example, let's see data visualization, for example. Yeah, on when it comes to modern data science and you're visualizing data, you are expected to know a tool like Tableau or Power BI. Doesn't cover that, right? But of course, understandable, this is also understandable from a book like this, because it can't go into every single topic. But I think that's interesting. Now, I do have a grayscale version, as you can see. For most of the images, most of the graphics, I don't really need a colored version. I do get like free PDFs from Springer, O'Reilly, all of these things accessible through my college library website. So if I really want to reference like colored images, etc., I can go through those. But for example, if you are working with image processing or GANs, generative networks, etc., I think it would make a little bit more sense to have a colored version, especially like if you're working with deep learning books, or if you're working with uh, image specific books. You might need color to some extent, so some of the those examples are going to be kind of not the best with the grayscale version. For example, this one, right? It's a color specific example that's not really going to work with this book. But overall, I think they are just kind of few and not a lot that you kind of miss. And interesting stuff has also been covered into throughout the book, like network analysis, etc., those kind of things that are I don't see getting covered in a master's degree or in even a 1 year postgrad diploma program these days, when it comes to data science and machine learning. And if you even, for example, look at, let's say, maths in this book, uh, linear algebra, right? He's just given like a basic definition, so the expectation is that you know some of this math already. You'd have like fundamentals in place, so you'd need an extra book. But the good thing is that this book does give you code for all of the mathematical operations as well. So if you know what those basic operations are, or you have the intuition, for example, which you can get like a different book or a couple of courses, etc. There are good courses on like Coursera, etc. But for this book, you can go through the code and you can start implementing that code. And I think that's also going to give you some sort of intuition, some sort of deeper intuition also on how the code is used. And uh, however, I think one of the things that might miss is that you won't have a very deep understanding of how different machine learning algorithms are actually working. I think that's going to be an important one, because if you don't know the intuition behind a lot of these machine learning algorithms, it's going to be very difficult to really grasp them well. And that's something that you should ideally think about spending time in, because even with the code, the operation is being handled by the code, right? And if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you won't have the best understanding of why you are doing certain steps. So for example, let's talk about like loss function minimization and all of those things. It's going to be a problem in that sense. Now, would I recommend this book in 2025? I think I would. I think I definitely would recommend it as a book. That's a very good reference. That's a very good overview book. That's a good book, especially for people who are coming from a computer science background, uh, people who want to understand what data science is about, what machine learning is about, at least get a basic understanding of all of the concepts under the umbrella. And then, especially for self learners, I think this is definitely a good book, considering the language that is used. There are other really good books as well. I've gone through some great writers who had review later as well. But I think as an overview reference book, spot on, definitely worth it in my opinion.